A British woman facing prison in the US after she was accused of killing a patient who died just minutes after a botched cosmetic buttock operation could be held in rat-infested cells covered in feces and vomit, a court has heard. Donna Francis, 37, gave Kelly Mayhew, 34, 3 silicone injections in her bottom in the basement of her house in New York in May 2015. But on the third dose, Ms. Mayhew turned purple and immediately went into shock. She died shortly after. Francis is facing extradition to the U.S. after being indicted by a jury in Queens, New York. Instead of calling an ambulance, Francis allegedly cleared up her equipment and ran from the house, fleeing to London when she learned the woman had died. More than a year later, an arrest warrant was issued, and a jury indicted Francis for criminally negligent homicide. She was finally tracked down and arrested by police in London in December 2017. A lawyer giving evidence on behalf of the defense described the filthy conditions Francis would be subjected to while being screened upon arrival in the U.S. Share this article. She would be brought to either Manhattan Detention Complex or Brooklyn Detention Center, both of which house male inmates. It would be the first time either would house a female inmate. Zachary Katznelson, who works for Prisoners' Rights NGO Legal Aid Society, said, "My experience, and I have spoken now with at least over 100 people who have been incarcerated, is that the screening frequently takes 3 to 4 days and people during that time are held in filthiness. The walls have vomit, feces, dried milk on them. They are caked in filth. Other times the water doesn't work at all. There are vermin, mice, roaches and rats on occasion. There are no mats, no bedding, no cleaning facilities. Often the toilets don't work. I have never heard of a woman being screened in those facilities." He said that, although the average time spent in screening is 3 to 4 days, people have spent up to 7 days in the centers. Francis is likely to be sent to one of 2 jails in Suffolk County, one of which, Riverhead, often denies prisoners access to mental health assessments and had people die in the cells, according to Mr. Katznelson. He said, "People experiencing mental health crises in the jail are often ignored or put into isolation or held in their cells 23 hours a day. The jail does not have mental health facilities in place to treat anyone with acute problems," he said, adding, "The only option is to send them to hospital." Although Mr. Katznelson had not been to the jail, he spoke with a number of inmates and staff at Riverside who reported inadequate facilities. He said, for example, one of the problems in the jail is one of sewage, where the toilets frequently back up and overflow. Instead of the waste going down, it goes up in the toilets of other cells and floods onto the floor. The court heard the Assistant District Attorney George Farrugia had estimated Francis would spend a year in prison on remand. Cross-examining, Catherine Brown, representing U.S. authorities, argued that the Assistant District Attorney had said Francis would be singled out and given special treatment because it was an international case. She said, "Do you know if the receiving authority will adhere to those conditions because it's a matter of an international agreement?" But Mr. Katznelson said, "I don't know of anyone who has been singled out and always been treated fairly." there's a grave risk she would not be because that is consistently the case. He also said he did not know how she would held in appropriate conditions in an all-male detention center. Ms. Brown questioned Mr. Katznelson's impartiality as he has an upcoming lawsuit concerning the conditions in the Brooklyn and Manhattan detention centers. He said, "I am open and honest with what I see and hear. When I discover unconstitutional conditions, I'm obliged to try and remedy them." Ms. Brown said that Suffolk County had set out a budget for the year, which included funding plans for both jails, the other being Yathing Correctional Facility, and there had been no allocation to repair the plumbing. She said, "Do you not think, if there were serious ongoing problems with the sanitary facilities, it would be mentioned here?" Mr. Katznelson said the repairs would cost tens of millions of dollars. He said, "The fact that the department isn't choosing to address the repairs is down to the department. It would be of huge cost to them." A previous court heard that the mother of the victim, who was with her for the procedure, begged Frances for help when her daughter stopped breathing, but Frances simply packed up her equipment and fled the scene. Emergency services found Kelly unconscious at the home in Mayhew and rushed her to hospital, but sadly she passed away. NYPD detectives got an arrest warrant for Frances a year later, and a jury indicted her for criminally negligent homicide. Frances had fled to the UK, but was tracked down in London last year by the Met Police, where she was working as a hospital driver. She was bailed on the condition that she wear an electronic tag. The Supreme Court in New York charged her with 3 offenses including criminal negligent homicide and 2 counts of unauthorized practice of a professional. The charges carry a maximum sentence of 4 years in prison for each offense. Frances has been fighting her extradition, arguing it breached her right to a family life under Article 8, and she faces inhumane conditions and torture under Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights. The judgment in the extradition case was adjourned at Westminster Magistrates Court until October 25. Frances, who wore a black suit and wept through most of the proceedings, was released on conditional bail until that date.